Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
David Weiss has to be held accountable for what he is going to do now that he's a special prosecutor, but he also has to be held accountable for what he has already failed to do starting in 2018.
It's Republican Congressman from California, Darrell Issa, talking about Andrew Weiss. Apparently, several days ago, Mr. Weiss, special counsel regarding the Hunter Biden stuff, he goes up to Merrick Garland and says, Merrick, dude, I got a lot of stuff here, man. And I think I'm going to need some more help. I'm going to have to go and investigate this some more as it relates to Hunter Biden and potential dealings with his father, the guy who is now president of the United States. I'm going to need some more. I got to have some more latitude on this. First, sounds really good. Yep, they're starting to connect Hunter to his dad.
The walls are closing in.
How long we've been on this kick now?
A while.
And we're going to be apparently on it for a little while longer. And then on the surface, seems really good. Okay, cool. They're going after Hunter. But
I've heard a lot of criticism as people kind of sift through, why would this happen and why now? There had been rumors of it earlier and everyone said, no, he doesn't need it. It's not going to happen. And like, this is the very guy that has essentially allowed some of these charges to get really close or even run the statute of limitations. He's not been, it's just not been great. And people are like, I don't know why this appointment is coming at this point. Also, so one speculation is, does it allow the Biden administration to have more control over the investigation and ultimately put the kibosh on it and let Hunter go? So, and he's the one that basically was the architect of the failed deal that would have basically given Hunter all of this immunity forever and ever.
And Jen, I want to see how this struck you, because initially, sounds good, they're going after Hunter, but here's what I think after the failed plea agreement and all that. And basically he's saying, Mr. Weiss is saying, listen, we've still been trying to negotiate. We can't get anything there, so we need to do special counsel on this. Give me more control. I'll go after him. Part of me says, man, I messed up. I need to make I messed up on this plea agreement thing. I need to make good, or I at least need to go to the American people. And Weiss is a Trump-appointed district attorney, appointed by Trump, but I need to go and make this look good, or I need to go to America and say, what can we do to at least give the appearance that we're really trying really hard? And the reason we do that is because we have our doubts. Why? Because we have been lied to these people over and over again. Stephanie Bell was one of the first talk show hosts in America that I heard say, listen to the messaging from the White House. First it was, I had no awareness of my son's business dealings, said Joe Biden. And then,
I never talked to him about it. I had no clue what my son was doing. And now it's, I wasn't in business with him. It's evolved several times, but I think we've arrived now at, we weren't in a joint venture. We weren't business partners. Well, yeah, you were the vice president, so we kind of knew that, but he can no longer claim that I had no idea. We've got Devin Archer's testimony saying he was on the speakerphone.
Marsh, did this story kick you in the groin, or did you high-five the story?
My thought was, I said, man, this is some great job security for the prosecutors.
Well, and keep in mind, too, that President Trump, the former president, tried to bring this up towards the end of the 2020 election. And when he did, he was, I believe, one moderator actually shut him down. And he only lost, of course, he believes he won, but he only lost Arizona, a couple of states by, basically 20,000 votes, 15 to 20,000 votes. You sprinkled them over 3 states, and he could have won that. Imagine if that stuff could have come out. Would it have made a difference? Who knows? But here's the bottom line about Hunter Biden. He and his supporters never expected that federal judge to ask those questions in court. And that was, and see, we don't have cameras in the courtroom, so we can only get the transcript. We can see, but she asked some very serious questions, and I think it caught everybody off guard. But the bottom line is, they came out, the prosecutors had to say it, Hunter Biden is still under federal investigation. That's I wasn't there, but that's what the transcript said. So that's pretty interesting. Now, I don't know for what, though. I mean, they wouldn't elaborate. And it was just an awkward thing. The whole thing's just been very unusual.
How did it strike you? 874-9390, 874-9390. Because, again, on the surface seems good, but I think it's more like, hey, we got to cover up our tracks. We made some mistakes. We did this. And we're going to hear shortly what Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, is saying. Good morning. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is here.
Good morning.
Mr. Houseworth.
Good morning, all.
Hey, Marsh.
Yes, sir.
Producer Hannah.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert, 874-9390. Some clouds today, otherwise becoming sunny. Temps below 80 degrees, which is going to be kind of nice. Brian and John been covering throughout the morning the amount of rain. I guess a record amount of rain recently.
We had yesterday in Columbia, and again, Jefferson City unfortunately doesn't have an official gauge, so this will be close. Columbia Regional Airport. Yesterday, 1.9 inches of rainfall yesterday, and they're always low at that mark, 1.9 inches during the 24-hour period, and that sets a record from, or at least ties a record from 1927. This will be close to Jeff City as well. For the month, Columbia, 9.09 inches of rain for August. We're only on the 14th. We're 7.4 inches above normal. So Mark Alford's having this big hearing today at 10 o'clock on the drought. And there is a drought, but a lot of those farmers are dealing, Brandon, with the drought and flooding in both at the same time. It's just been a really, I've never seen anything like it.
And they're dealing with Bidenomics.
That too. Little 9-year-old Amelia said, Mom, I think we might have prayed too hard for rain. As we sat inside and it just poured yesterday.
Yes.
Scale back on those prayers, man. Scale back.
John, we need to get on that official rain gauge for Jeff City.
Well, they have the one at the Jefferson City Memorial Airport, and I was looking at it earlier, and really the Jefferson City numbers and all were half an inch at the best at a time, they sorted out by hour and then 3-hour increments, 6-hour increments, but yeah, it's kind of dicey how the weather has been where we get record numbers in one county, then one county over they don't.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I think we need to just start manufacturing/printing official Wake Up Mid-Missouri rain gauges. We'll pass them out, and then we'll just, take your estimates, because it sounds like they might be better than in the Columbia Regional Airport.
And keep in mind, too, and John's right, there is a gauge at Jeff City Memorial Airport, and it's used, and we can certainly use it, but the official observation station for NWS is at officially Columbia, just south of KOMU. But we always take the official rainfall. So they said 1.9 inches. I guarantee you there are listeners that probably had close to 3, and probably, as John mentioned, half an inch. It just depends, but it rained hard. And then we also had a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings Saturday morning, so just very rough time.
And Congressman Mark Alford, is going to be on the show tomorrow talking about that. Today on the show, Missouri Times, Scott Faughn, 710, Missouri Politics, special session. Stephanie Bell on This Week in Missouri Politics with Scott Faughn over the weekend. Highlight of the show, you think? Big topic or two that y'all talked about?
We talked about the Attorney General's race, a little bit about the governor's race, and, of course, the abortion IP.
Did you see Governor Parsons' sweet new tat? Governor Parsons.
We had breaking news on the show last week because Director Chin actually confirmed she had seen it in person and that it was real ink, because a lot of folks out there said it's for sure a sticker or a fake tattoo.
Yeah, like a temporary one, but it's 57 inside the state of Missouri. It's reference to him being the 57th governor and 57th Super Bowl the Chiefs won. Couple of references there. And then a guy who wants to be the next governor, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. He is joining us this morning. We do want to talk about that drought, its impacts on how it's affecting us here in Missouri as it relates to agriculture. And, of course, we got to talk about the state fair. Anybody been to the state fair yet, Stephanie? I'm looking at you.
Not yet. I'm going this week. I'm super excited.
Well, and here's the other thing about Kehoe, and have fun. It'll be great. Virtually all, not all, but most of the agricultural groups are backing Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, and he got a big endorsement on opening day from the Missouri dairymen, which primarily are in southwest Missouri, but we have some producers here too.
Anything about the economic impact of the agriculture industry here in Missouri? Pretty substantial. Okay, back to the Bidens. This is Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell.
I don't know the possibility exists after this kind of painstaking investigation for there to be, oh my gosh, there's a new piece of evidence which changes.
I want to pause it there. Painstaking investigation. So that is BS for we've been really slow walking this thing because we don't want anybody. We know what's there, and we are doing everything we can at the very least to wait till any kind of conclusion on this thing until Joe gets out of the White House, which might be sooner than a lot of people think. There continue to be more calls. We're going to be featuring some audio this morning from another Democrat lawmaker saying Joe just needs to get out of the race. So this attorney, he's lying when he says, what a painstaking. It's not been painstaking. It has intentionally gone very slowly because there's stuff that they just don't want you to know.
The only thing that will change is the scrutiny on some of the charges, for example, the gun charge.
So we'll change some of the scrutiny on some of these charges. I hear you giggling, John.
Double speak, man.
Yeah, wow. Just incredible. And it seems like these national news outlets, they continue to get away with it. There's stories about DeSantis and Trump, some of the folks in Iowa over the weekend campaigning for president 2024. And it could just be me. And I always ask Stephanie. Stephanie's honest with me. Stephanie's one of those humans in life. Stephanie and Hannah, I'm like, hey, check me. Be honest. Seriously, I'm not looking for the right answer. I need you to be honest, right? But the way their stories are written, one was about how Trump supporters, they were all sweaty and stuff. Well, it was hot outside. But they don't describe when somebody goes up and shows at a Joe Biden event when it's 99 in Pennsylvania with a heat index of 105. They don't talk about sweaty Joe Biden supporters. And then they talked about, and then Ron DeSantis went for a ride on the bumper cars. Maybe am I being too sensitive, Steph?
No, I mean, are they calling us like fat? I mean, like sweaty and, I mean, that's rude.
Yeah. Corn-fed.
Yeah.
Corn-fed. That's one way of
No,
putting it.
thank you.
Also over the weekend, I remember Gary Shapley. He was the one testified before a House subcommittee who said, listen, man, this stuff is going on with the Bidens and Hunter and all this. He was asked on CNN yesterday, Gary Shapley, that same IRS whistleblower that really got the ball rolling on the presidential family, was asked, does he think the president, so now you've got the special counsel going after Hunter, does he think the president should be worried?
There were investigative steps that clearly indicated the Hunter Biden's father, President Biden, had some type of involvement, and we just weren't allowed to follow those leads.
So he's not answering the question, but it sounds like he's saying yes. It sounds like he says the walls are closing in. Good morning. Welcome into the show. Coming up, Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Well, look out. Mike Pence says he's going to start calling people out. Are you shaking in your boots?
nothing to do with inflation reduction. They knew that. It's like if a little brother and little sister, Stephanie Bell's little brother, back in the day, come up and he'd push her and knock her on the ground and steal her candy bar and then go back, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Damage is already done.
Yeah, they knew it, and the evidence bears it out. In fact, most of the provisions are really like AOC's Green New Deal. A lot of it has to do with climate change, and he's been, roaming around various states talking about all of the climate change provisions, and people are like, but isn't this the Inflation Reduction Act? And everyone seems to agree, this has nothing to do with inflation reduction. The Harvard University economist said he can't think of any mechanism in the bill which would have brought down inflation to date. There's also someone at Penn School that said the IRA has just not been a significant factor in reducing inflation. And now even Biden's like, I shouldn't have called it that.
My bad. As a matter of fact, coming up at 6:50, Consumer Confidence preliminary report from Michigan University Consumer Confidence Index. How do we feel about things? It's not good. We're going to cover that at 6:50. But it is. It's just like I'm going to do something bad. But my saving grace is that I'm going to apologize for it later. That's BS. That's exactly what they're doing.
And Mike Pence is getting all fired up. Can you see him with like a red face pointing at anybody? I can't see him getting mad at anything.
Unless maybe his McDonald's order got messed up or something.
I ordered a Happy Meal.
He said he is going to call people out at the presidential debate for basically on Roe v. Wade. He says there should be a national abortion ban. He said others are, quote unquote, suggesting that the Supreme Court return the question of abortion to the states. That's exactly what the court did. That's what the court did. He's the one that wants the feds to step in and do this national abortion ban. Tim Scott of South Carolina agrees with Pence and says, yes, the feds should step in here. Of course, DeSantis signed state legislation banning abortion at 6 weeks, but has not said anything about pressing for a national ban. But Mike Pence is ready to get on that stage and call people out.
Seeing Mike Pence try to get angry reminds me a story about my dad, who co-hosts with us here on the show from time to time. I don't know, we were 8, 9, 10 years old, and somebody in traffic had cut him off or something. He had a cigarette dangling out of his mouth, and he was mad. He rolled down that window and looked at the kids in the back seat of the car, and the best he could come up with is he flipped the dude off and said, "Watch it, you butthole." It's the best. That's as angry as he could get. That's what I envisioned Pence would be doing.
I love it. Well, Donald Trump was making a spectacle at the Iowa fair this weekend. Apparently, he buzzed in on his helicopter, made a lot of noise, had some friends with him, including your boy, Matt Gaetz, Brandon.
Matt Gaetz.
I didn't realize he was one of the 9 Florida lawmakers coming with Trump. Matt Gaetz said, "To all my friends in Iowa, when you see them come for this man, know that they are coming for the movement and they're coming for all of us." So, of course, the TV cameras were there, so Matt Gaetz had to be there stumping for Trump. Also, DeSantis hit back a little bit in that he kind of paraded around with Iowa legislators who were, in that state supporting DeSantis, and so said, hey, yeah, you've got your folks from Florida, but look at me. I'm in Iowa. Iowa's really important, and Iowans support me.
While he was speaking, DeSantis somebody was flying an airplane with a banner that says, "DeSantis is likable."
Oh, man.
Which, if you're having to pay all that money for an airplane to fly a banner around saying you're likable, chances are
you're probably not all that likable.
All right. We also need to talk about junk fees. Biden is out there saying, I'm going to get rid of all these junk fees. But some of these junk fees, like one of the ones they're saying where they're going to get
They will be helping us in partnership with active military and our reserves and all of our partners. They will be active in the deconstructing of the disaster area, and we'll have to remove the debris.
Deadliest wildfire in over 100 years taking place in Hawaii, and there's a whole lot of causes apparently. And of course, you know what the national news outlets are going after here. This is Jake Tapper, CNN, and I'll give you $1 if you can figure out what he's going to say next.
Experts warn that extreme disasters such as this one are only becoming more common because
anyone? Bueller?
Because bleep happens.
That's what I say exactly. Sometimes things just happen. They just do. John, you want to take a stab at what Jake Tapper says next? These fires have been caused by...
What we think he said or what we wanted him to say. Yeah, what we wanted him to say or what we think he should have said.
What do you think he's going to say?
I think he's going to say the C word.
All right.
Both of them.
Well, then this is going to be really entertaining then. John, what do you think it is?
I think she's right on the money.
C word. Hannah?
Double C word.
The C word.
climate change is fueling stronger storms.
It's climate change. Here's what officials. By the way, I don't know exactly how it caused. Was somebody smoking a cigarette and flicking their cigarette butt out the window? And please, man, as a point of privilege here, I wish people wouldn't do that. I would see this in Idaho all the time, in an area that can be susceptible to wildfires. People are smoking and they flick their. And I don't care that you smoke, man. It's your business. You have that right. But man, when you start flicking stuff out the window and it lands on somebody's car or starts fires, then you're affecting other people. Wish people wouldn't do it. Don't know what caused it, but we do know that an Hawaiian couple is suing power companies over this destruction. They're saying the power companies. There's a lot of things going on. Number one, years ago, they used to do cattle grazing on some of these islands in Hawaii. I don't know if you've ever been to Hawaii and tried to buy beef. Woo!
I've never been to Hawaii.
I haven't either, but I've heard.
Okay.
But apparently you go to Hawaii and buy beef. It's incredibly expensive. There's very little beef that's actually manufactured in Hawaii, and they have to ship it from the mainland. But there had been some patches. And around this Lahaina area, they used to graze cattle. And the good thing about whenever you graze cattle, sheep, goats, whatever it is, they keep the grasses down. They can keep out the non-native species of grasses. You don't get all this dry brush buildup. Think back to the 90s. Remember back in the 90s, Marsh, when Clinton said, we're going to quit clearing out some of these forest lands. And then what happened after that? Some of the biggest wildfires out west in modern history because there was no thinning of the forest. It was man-made because they decided to quit thinning out forest. So it's kind of the same concept here, depending on who you believe. Dry vegetation, low humidity, again, stuff happens, and sometimes several things all line up. Sometimes there's little stuff happens that all lines up to create big stuff happens. Weather, hurricane winds, dry vegetation. They had not been having rain, and they said, well, it's because of climate change. And listen, I side with Tony Lupo, who's an atmospheric scientist from Mizzou. He comes on the show from time to time, and sure, over the past 200 years, the climate has changed a little bit. You think about the industrialization of planet Earth, it sure has changed a little bit. To the point that we're going to die tomorrow, because they've been telling us for 50 years now, we're going to die tomorrow, and it's doing this, and that, and it's just simply not true. So anytime there's a weather event, they go to the C word.
They really do. I think about it just like on an individual level. I know people who have, had serious injuries or even died, and it's like the freakiest thing happened, right? Like 17 things had to go wrong for like this to exactly happen to an individual, and it's so hard to explain. And you're like, why did this happen? And it would be great if we could just say things like climate change, like just but like sometimes just things unfold in a way that's unexpected, and everything had to go wrong for that exact outcome, and it just happens, and it sucks, and it happens, but like it just sometimes it's there. Now, I think the one thing that could have changed here, and that's been really horrifying to hear about, is that their alarm system didn't go off. And so apparently they have multiple different alarm systems. I think one is kind of like like these sirens or something, but they also have something for on your phone for tsunami warnings, and they didn't utilize that. They have this other like outdoor alarm system, and it just never went off. And so I think I can't remember. I think all of the alarms went off in Jefferson City for the tornado, and thank goodness. When we had that, it's been 5 years ago, I think. When we had that tornado, it was in the middle of the night. I think it turned out there were no fatalities as a result of the tornado. I mean, just insane. And there were a lot of people I know who slept through it. But I know after that, and especially in downtown, we got new warnings. We got louder ones. It chimes now. It talks to you. And that was kind of part of the breakdown after that was, how can we make sure people are alerted? We got lucky this time. And unfortunately, in Hawaii, they didn't get lucky. And it's been devastating. And you just think you have all these tools at your fingertips, and why we need a full breakdown of why that didn't get triggered or utilized.
Well, remember Hawaii taking it in the shorts the last time when they didn't sound any warnings when the North Koreans were launching, test missiles and all that. And that got all wound up with Hawaii and all, and a lot of accusations flew there that their alert system wasn't up to speed that time around.
Just need some good button pushers. Hit the alarm, dude. Thing's about to go south.
That's why I'm here.
And it's made me rethink, is particularly in tourist areas as well. I mean, me being in mid-Missouri, I know what to listen for or hear or whatever. But if you're in a tourist area, I've thought about that myself. I wouldn't know how to evacuate out of most places that I've been vacationing. B, I probably am not paying as much attention to the weather or my surroundings since I'm on vacation. I'm probably not on Twitter checking the weather alerts. So I think, particularly if you're in a tourist area that has a lot of visitors, that alarm system becomes even more important to let folks know.
Sometimes just things happen. But everybody gets on the TV. It's climate change. You need to buy. If you own an internal combustion engine, John, you're the reason that wildfire is ravaging through the Hawaii. It's all you. And Steph, you're right. My dad's fascinated, having been in the Air Force and worked on helicopters and airplanes, fascinated by plane crashes. And he studied all the prominent plane crashes. There's a few exceptions, like the dude who was suicidal and crashed into that mountain in Germany several years back. But more often than not, you look at every single plane disaster, and it was a series of events. There wasn't one thing like, the engine just went kaput. It was somebody didn't check this thing, and when that thing didn't get checked, it caused this problem. Well, then they were midair, so nobody... It is a series of events. So when they get on the TV and say, this fire, it's climate change, stuff happens. Things happen. Welcome into the show. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
She does push my buttons. Pushes all of our buttons.
That's her job.
Yeah, it's in my contract.
She's very good at it, too.
Thank goodness, too, right, Hannah?
There is John Marsh.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Something you need from us, 874-9390. Jem says via text, climate change is the cover for Democrats' incompetence. Because it is. It's just like there's this, and I'm a big fan of ownership. And I wasn't always. It's a new... Okay, don't go agreeing, girls. But I wasn't always. It's like... To say, yep, I made a mistake. Joe Biden, we could say he has taken some ownership. Now, I don't believe him. You know why? Because he's lied to us too many times before. Don't know if you heard this over the weekend. He said, I shouldn't have called it the Inflation Reduction Act. I wish somebody would have said, how come? Well, because it doesn't reduce inflation. Well, then why did USA Today, CNN, and MSNBC and all these people, why did KJP from the White House podium continue to talk? Not only did you say you misnamed it, but then you keep attributing successes. And the successes are, hey, we suck less this month. That's a success.
Yeah, and what you're going to get is a TV commercial, if he makes it to the ballot, a TV commercial that says, remember, Joe Biden passed the, quote, Inflation Reduction Act. And then you're going to get a stat about how inflation has decreased, which it has, but everyone agrees, including those people at Harvard and all the smart people at Penn. They say it had nothing to do with the Inflation Reduction Act. But if you don't think they're going to run that ad, don't hold your breath.
It's like how I got excited. I heard over the weekend that gas went down. It went down from $3.69 to $3.68.
Is it really $3.68?
Yeah.
Yikes. I don't even, it's like my 401k. I just don't look. I'm just like, I gotta get to work. So I'm just gonna, and I don't want to know.
Hey, I'm being serious here because this is happening to me right now. It's been going on for a while and it goes back and forth and I'm being serious. Like retirement. Is that becoming, and I wasn't stressed about, I'm not kidding, like to the point, I'm almost thinking maybe it's causing me medical issues, but seriously, I'm being serious. You can, whether you're looking at your IRA or not, does anybody get into that fear of like, because I think it's kind of a natural fear anyway, that am I going to be set up properly for retirement? I think you're fine, Steph, and Hannah, God bless you. She's been saving for retirement since she was in her teens. But
see, your little circle, my spend is a lot different than yours. So I don't know that I'm fine. I think a lot of people have written it off almost. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I think the myth that like you reach a certain age and you never need to work again is I mean, you've said your dad's doing a little bit of work. So, and I mean, I think a lot of us aren't holding out hope that comes a day where I just don't need any income at all. I think Hannah's generation is doing a really good job of finding like side hustles and a way to work on the internet and get extra cash. And I think it's probably, for my people, they think maybe I could do that. Maybe I could go down to part-time. Maybe I could consult. Maybe I could sell weird things on the internet. I don't know.
Don't go to Japan, Stephanie.
That's right. But I think, in my mind, I don't think I will ever have a day in my life where I'm like, I have no income producing activities.
John, you ever get scared? And you too, listening, 874-9390, that fear. Because that's a real fear for you. And you might look at your numbers and think, oh, we're good, but we don't know what's happening. Listen, we still have some time with Uncle Joe sitting there in the White House.
Don't look at your 401k. Isn't that what we tell people?
Yeah.
87. You won't like it.
I even took a picture of my dad this weekend working at a Gap. My dad's 74 years old.
He looks like he's having fun.
Most brilliant, and I'll show it if you're watching on our YouTube channels, which you can do every morning. There's my dad. And what you can't see under the counter, he's got a hand flipping off Joe Biden. Thanks, Joe. You did this. 73. And it's not. I'm exaggerating. My dad didn't go back to work because he had to. He's just bored.
Well, but I think that's another fear, and that was my fear for a long time because my parents, I heard them talk about it for so long, and they said, one day we're going to retire, and they were both small business owners, and so they retired a lot later than some of their other friends who maybe worked at the state or whatever, and they kept talking about it, and I, one day we're going to be able to golf whenever we want, and I just thought I was so fearful for that. Like last 5 years of work is like I just want them to be able to get there and do what they've always said they wanted to do. And luckily, they have, right? And they get to golf all the time now. But I think for a lot of us who are in that space, who have parents who are right there at retirement or whatever, the fear is more secondary fear for, our parents wanting them to, because they've been told their whole life, hey, guess what? If you work to this age, that money is going to mean that you can go retire. And now that money that's sitting there means something different due to inflation.
Well, Steph, you've apparently struck a chord. Folks are texting about this, 874-9390. So we'll do that. We'll share some of those texts coming up here in just a few minutes on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 874-9390. And we're looking at consumer confidence. And I want to talk about this double speak from another progressive. I don't know if you stunning video being shown over the weekend. California Nordstrom ransacked by a huge flash mob. All these people, gloves and ski masks. They go in, smash the place up, terrify everybody in there. Got about $100,000 in goods. And here's the double speak. Here is the frustration and the reality of what happens. You've got the progressive mayor of L.A. She is saying those who committed these acts and acts like it in the neighboring areas must be held accountable. You were the ones that were saying no accountability for a lot of these crimes. You were the ones that wanted to defund police. That's double speak when now you say, well, we're going to hold you accountable. Good morning. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
by higher meat prices and bigger margins at wholesalers. And the University of Michigan's preliminary August survey showed consumer sentiment falling slightly.
Dow Friday up 105 points. Coming up 8:25, Morning Bell, business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Something else to add to my suck list. Apparently it's not on everyone else's suck list.
Number 57.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go and cut down some more trees because we need paper for Stephanie's suck list. Santa Claus, ranch dressing, puppy breath, birds.
Sandwiches,
all kinds of stuff. Welcome into the show. That is actually very lovely, Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
She's not hateful.
Not usually.
Not usually.
I actually had a dream last night that you really made her mad.
I have strong opinions.
Strong opinions. How did I make her mad in your dream?
Stephanie had invited us to this really nice restaurant, and she was going to, pay for all of us to eat there. It was one of those, I know the owner type of situations, got the VIP experience, and you showed up, and you didn't like what was on the menu, and you threw a fit, and she was really mad that you were being ungrateful.
Really?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow.
That's really specific.
I know. I never remember my dreams, and that one I remembered because I woke up and went, I could see that happening.
I got cranky bad. Do you see that? I don't think that's something that I would ever do.
You would show up in flip-flops with your own water at a fancy restaurant like Cece's.
And a Tupperware bowl so I can take home any leftovers.
Yikes.
We were talking about consumer confidence and looking at your IRA and things like that. And are you getting nervous? Seriously, because we talk about our retirements, we're doing this and that, but I'm wondering about, and we can talk about this consumer confidence index survey, but seriously, you personally, is this becoming a fear for you? I'm in my 50s, and I don't know if it's just all of a sudden a phase of life, I'm reassessing, and I'm but it's starting to get scary, a real fear, not that bothers me, I'll look at this next month and figure out what to do, it's something that hangs and stays with you. And I wonder if that's going on with other people. Basically, the Consumer Confidence Index just says pretty much what it is. How confident do you feel about things? And this matters because if you don't feel real confident about your retirement or about your savings or about whether you keep in your job, what happens? You start spending less money. You start backing off those big ticket buys. You start doing that, and that gets bad for the economy.
Yeah, we've seen that even with, there's a big article about school supplies, and people are buying secondhand. They're not buying new backpacks. They're buying consigned clothes, all of those things. So it's bearing
same thing last week on CNN. People are coming up to him from Biden's camp and saying it's just not happening. I want to bring in Scott Faughn real quick, Missouri Times. So who is the Dem go-to guy on that side then? If we get more and more of these people that are going to Joe and saying, dear God, Joe, for the love of our country, man, you got to step out. Who's next?
Oh, I'm hearing a little bit more nuanced situation from folks in Washington. It's that if Trump looks like he's going to be the nominee, Biden probably sticks around because they figure he could win. And Joe Biden wasn't exactly lucid when he beat him last time pretty handily. And I think this time, I don't think anybody believes Donald Trump's more popular than he was 4 years ago. If it's Trump, then they feel pretty good. If it's not Trump, then I think they turn it over, and it's a bit of a free-for-all. Biden does not have the best record to run against a fresh face. But against Trump, he probably could win without exerting a lot of effort, which I don't think he's got a lot in the tank anyway.
And see, I wonder from where I sit as a conservative, I keep thinking, isn't it better if Joe does stay in the race, almost regardless of who the Republican nominee ends up being that is legally able to run for president, regardless of who that is? You think conservatives would have a better chance of a Republican winning the White House if Joe Biden stayed in the race?
It depends. I mean, you've got a Democrat Party, just like the Republican Party sort of, bid common sense of fond farewell a long time ago. You've got some real extreme elements in that Democrat Party that if truly thrown open to a primary, I mean, if you recall, they all had to come together to beat Bernie Sanders, a communist. I mean, he's an admitted socialist. And that whole party had to come together. Remember, they had Mayor Pete and the senator from Minnesota. They all dropped out in one day, all as a concerted effort to keep a guy that'll just tell you, yeah, I'm a socialist from getting the nomination. I think you left that party left to its own devices. I mean, look who they're nominating for offices. Stephen Weber in Columbia is an exception, where the Democrats get behind the best candidate, the one that could definitely win if you just don't screw it up. That looks like that's what's happening for the state Senate race in Columbia. That is the exception, not the rule. As goofy as the Republican Party can be in this state, the Democrat Party can say, hold my beer.
Scott Faughn, the MissouriTimes.com. Missouri politics, no better coverage than on the MissouriTimes.com. Good morning and welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
Mr. Marsh.
Yes, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert. Brian Houseworthy is here, too. Highlight of having Stephanie Bell on This Week in Missouri. By the way, Scott also hosts a TV show, This Week in Missouri Politics, specific to Missouri politics and its implications on us. Stephanie, on the show over the weekend. What was the highlight of having Stephanie Bell on your show, Scott?
Well, the low light was we didn't cover the suck list. That was a missed opportunity. I always like to get Stephanie's take on the races, especially I like to talk about races where lawyers are running, or the AG's race. That was interesting to me. So that's always fun. Having Andrew Bailey on was interesting. He has such a odd race. I mean, you've got a guy who a legitimate Central Missouri war hero, but he was appointed to the office. He'd never ran before. AG is not normally where people start off at. And so he's running against a guy from the East Coast with tons of money behind him. Very bright guy, very intelligent guy. But I mean, it's a race that's very odd. It's funny, if you talk to just most regular people, they're not even going to know there is a race yet. But when Mr. Sharp's dad gets done spending money, they're all you're not going to be able to listen to much else on the commercial breaks here on Wake Up in Missouri but those ads. So it's a really interesting race. Got a chance to talk to him about it, and I like to ask Stephanie about it because there are two guys that have pretty much the same opinion on everything, but one has more of an East Coast style and one has a Central Missouri war hero. Well, one's got a Harvard style and one's got a war hero style.
Yeah, and I'd also point out Mark Levin has talked about Will Scharf as well, so he's gotten a lot of, free publicity from that. I heard
that guy from the East Coast, right?
Yeah, well, he's on Fox News, so
they stick together, I guess, don't they?
But they that definitely got a lot of attention. Scott, I want to point out the governor will be in Columbia tomorrow afternoon to sign two bills back to back, and for the governor's office listening, I hope they're able to get to both because they're not giving themselves a whole lot of a window to sign them both. But the second bill will be the NIL bill, and it was going to sign it on Faurot Field in Columbia right here. This did not get much media attention, at least in the news departments around the state, except towards the end. What do you read into this bill?
Well, I think the reason it didn't get a lot of attention is it's tweaking the last NIL bill, right? The first NIL bill I thought got a lot of attention.
Yes, it did.
This week they're obviously competing with Hunter Thomas's birthday. One of your top listeners.
Happy birthday, Hunter!
Yeah.
And that's probably why there's some competition. I think it's because it's the second one, and I think tweaking a previous bill. Folks have come to terms with the fact you're going to pay these kids to play football and basketball, I guess, to a lesser extent, and folks are I don't think anybody cared once it happened. It didn't change the enjoyment of the games. So I just think because you're tweaking the law instead of creating a new law, a new policy, I think there's less interest in it.
All right, our guest from the Missouri Times, Scott Faughn, this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Scott, Jefferson City has a brand new mayor, Ron Fitzwater. They just announced Brian Crane, a known quantity, as the new city administrator. The question to you is, your volunteer push to be a meter maid in Jefferson City and fix the parking issue once and for all, is it getting more traction with these guys?
Oh, I tell you what, the only thing I can compare this to is when Trump took over from Obama. You had a common sense businessman take over from a radical left-wing reparations seeker. I guess Obama probably takes less pictures of himself than the old mayor, but I mean, really, Ron Fitzwaters came in like a breath of fresh air. I tell you what, it's such a radically different approach. It's almost like they don't hate you coming downtown now in Jeff City. It's just the difference. I mean, Branden talks about elections matter, electing a conservative matters. There is no better situation you could ever point to, no better practical example of going from left-wing, tearing down monuments politics to conservative common sense politics than Ron Fitzwater. And it's morning downtown in Jefferson City. And it's all thanks to him, Missouri's mayor.
Now, a big week at the state fair with the governor's ham breakfast coming up. There's some other events going on where we see a lot of Missouri politicos, and a lot of people won't remember this, but last year at this time, we still didn't know who our attorney general was going to be. And so there are a lot of folks that showed up at the state fair that I had never seen at the fair before, who were vying for that AG spot. And there, so, I always look for who is there that I don't see every year. And then who did I think was going to show up that is not going to show up. So one person I would put on my list, I don't think I saw Crystal Quaid there last year. I suspect she will be there this year after announcing for governor. The other person is, I know a lot of people are speculating, is Caleb Rowden going to run or not? I think if he doesn't show up to the state fair, that says something. Do you agree? And then who are you watching for as far as who shows up versus not?
Well, I think last year Crystal was going to come and had something come up personally at the last minute. I assume she'll be there. I'll be disappointed if she's not. I've always been pessimistic, as we've talked about, that Caleb Rowden runs. I mean, can you imagine leading the state senate for what will be 6 years, then running statewide? And especially the Caleb Rowden's had the toughest road to hoe of any Senate leader I can ever remember. I honestly kind of don't think he'll run. Just because, I mean, gosh, the guy probably wants a little bit of a break. But I tell you who to watch for. There's 2 Supreme Court openings.
Oh, good point.
The way this process will work is there's people that have applied for the first. The first one, the applications are open. I think the private interviews have been underway. The actual formal interview process, so I think it's next week, actually. Starts a week from today. I think you're going to see a lot of judges and lawyers interested in not just that opening, but the second Supreme Court opening. And then if I think a lot of folks, it really right now is the Supreme Court of Northern Missouri. There is no one from anywhere. I think the farthest south a judge lives is Jefferson City. I think you're going to see a bunch of folks from Southern Missouri in Sedalia Thursday morning, Wednesday for the ag dinner, Thursday morning for the ham breakfast. And then you're going to see some other Southern Missouri lawyers or judges that want to get that appellate court spot if he picks us up an appellate court judge. So I think you're going to see a bunch of folks with that everybody knows the governor loves the fair. He's from just down the road in Bolivar. I think everybody, if you've got a bar card and you want to be a judge, I think you're probably going to find it with the Sedalia this week.
And this brings up an interesting point with our guest this morning, Scott Faughn, the MissouriTimes.com. Check it out. You're interested in state politics, it's the go-to place. Also has the weekly TV show you can catch on Sundays. Check your local listings for dates and times. It's called This Week in Missouri Politics. Now, you talk about these attorneys and the ham breakfast and some of the things that start to happen there. There is an attorney by the name of Stephanie Bell that's going to be attending this ham breakfast. What do we read into that?
And for the record, I go every year.
Well, I mean, I think I read what everybody else reads. She might be trying to turn her microphone in for a row.
No.
Because somebody adeptly wrote 1-2 years ago about some possibilities for the Attorney General. And as I remember, didn't the name Stephanie Bell potentially come up?
As I understand it, she just couldn't take the pay cut.
I actually have real work that needs to get done at the fair, which I like to do other than just hobnob.
All right.
Eat corn dogs and...
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ride the Ferris wheel.
Yes, check.
All right. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times. Check his stuff out. Anything else you'd like to add here in the 10 seconds before we let you go, man?
I'd like to add that as of right now, at this moment, it's not my fault if you don't hit What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25.
Amen. We love you, brother. We'll see you. Check it out. MissouriTimes.com. What's Hot with Hannah coming up 7:25-ish.
Not to make things too dark and dreary for a Monday morning at 7:20.
But
we're going to talk about regret.
Oh, man.
Sad.
I know, right?
Man, we've talked regret.
Oh, we talked last week. We had breaking news about Governor Parsons. It appears to be his first tattoo at the age of 67 years old.
Got some ink.
He did. He got some ink. He got to show it off to Pat Mahomes at the Kansas City Chiefs training camp. And it's got a cool story behind it. It's posted on the Wake Up Facebook page if you missed that last week and you want to go check it out. But ironically, today is a national holiday involving tattoos. Today is National Tattoo Removal Day. So I want to know if anyone in the Wake Up family's got a good story about maybe a tattoo that they regret getting, or maybe one they have had.
Wait. How many people on the show have a tattoo? One.
John, do you have any tattoos?
Not that I admit to.
John's got one. I've seen it before when we go soak in the hot tub.
Oh,
it's on his arm. It's heart with a cross, and it says "Mom" on it. It's pretty cool.
But today is strategically placed exactly 6 months after Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
Because apparently there's an influx of people who get names tattooed on them on Valentine's Day, and they might find themselves 6 months later looking to get it removed.
Do you have to do a breathalyzer before you get a tattoo?
I don't know. I think you have to sign a paper saying you're not intoxicated.
I feel like if you're going to tattoo someone's name, there should be like a 24-hour waiting period. You have to show up, pay, wait 24 hours, and then decide.
Oh, boy, from the lady with the face tats, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I do have a tattoo. I have my eyebrows are tattooed on.
Call her Post Malone.
Right?
I would seriously love to hear, like, legit, because you hear but legitimately hear a story of regret from somebody from the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family that got like a name
Can
tattooed.
I tattle on someone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Of course.
Of course you
We
can,
had
Steph.
I think he would laugh about it now, but we had a friend in college, and he went into the Army. We were first, it was like Christmas break, and he comes back, and he's got this huge tattoo, and it is a girl's name. And within 6 months, it was covered up. I think 6 months, yeah. But it was large, and the tattoo to cover it up was he did not get it removed. And that I've heard the removal is like super painful, and it doesn't
long process.
And it doesn't look great ultimately. So he just had it tattooed over, which it's large. I'm sure he has some regrets.
Another cool story, if folks want to share about names or whatever, have you had a tattoo removed, and how did that go for you? 874-9390, and I've got $42 in my wallet. I would give like $10 for the first person that would call and tell us about getting a tramp stamp removed. Remember when those were the things, I guess, back in the 90s?
Oh, for sure.
It said stuff like, this end up, use no hook.
Why do you think high-rise jeans are really popular among my generation now? Because before, we all wore those low-rise things, and so now we've got high-rise because we can cover up all of our tramp stamps.
Well, so my future brother-in-law is a Marine, and when he was stationed overseas, he got himself a big old tattoo on his shoulder blade, and it took a couple weeks for the group of Marines to realize that one of the words was spelled wrong.
There you go.
Oh, no. See, I think Governor Parson has it right, because one of the big things you hear about tattoos is like, oh, man, you're going to get this tattoo, then you're going to get all wrinkly, and it's going to look weird, and when you get old, so maybe you just wait till you're already old to get a tattoo, and then, but I just think, like, point. I think about, what is he? He's 60. Is he 67?
Yeah.
Yes, he's 67.
Can you imagine, like, going home for Christmas or whatever, and your grandpa being like, guess what? Look at my new ink. I think that's awesome, actually.
Hey, kids, gather around. Grandpa Parsons got something to show you.
Right? And his granddaughter drew it, which is really cute. I wouldn't tattoo any of my kids' artwork on my body just yet.
874-9390. If you ever had tattoo
walk around and just see the environment. All the food is really good, and there's just a lot to look at while you walk.
Plus, Stephanie Bell celebrating her 48th birthday at the state fair. 40th.
Careful. Careful.
Her 40th birthday at the state fair this week, fully underway. And we've had, we look at our county fairs recently. We've had some. It's been like super hot, small attendance. Cole County, man, I don't know final numbers on that, Marsh, but they were really paying attention to that because whenever they're done with the fair right away, they have their money. Let's start planning for next year. And I don't know if you've seen any final numbers yet.
Wasn't good.
Yeah, wasn't good, and bums me out. Now we have the Missouri State Fair, and, of course, a lot of things going on there. I want to bring in Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, also gubernatorial candidate. Mr. Kehoe, welcome into the show this morning. For you, the highlight of the State Fair.
It's always the food, isn't it?
That's what I would think. Yeah, it's the food.
Yeah,
it's the food. Let me ask you this.
It's you know what the highlight is, and it's weird. I've been there every morning, and I'm on my way up there now, actually. But when you go in like between 7 and 8:30, and you go by all the different show barns, especially the cattle show barns, there's these steel racks with hoses all around them, and you've got kids from literally 6 years old to 16 years old out there, combing their steer, washing their steer down. It's the coolest thing to see in the morning. They're excited. They got their numbers on their back. They're trying to get their animal to look its best. And their parents, for the most part, aren't standing there helping them. These kids are helping each other. And it's that to me, that side, I got to take a picture of it one morning for you guys. That's just a really cool thing to see in the morning.
Yeah,
I know it sounds weird, but it's neat.
I get it, man. I get it.
Well, and a lot of those kids are competitors against each other.
They are definitely competitors. They all know each other. That kind of fraternity between those FFA kids and the 4-H kids, it's pretty unique. And they'll be competing against each other their whole life as they go through, until they get into college and they get out of 4-H and FFA. But it's a cool thing. There's a lot of neat things at the fair this year. The concerts have been really, really good. Friday night, Lainey Wilson was sold out. Saturday's fair attendance was a record in history. So, I mean, there were so many people. And I was there yesterday, Military Appreciation Day, and even with the rain, there were people everywhere. It was unbelievable. It's a neat deal.
Yeah, we heard from listener Nathan who said, it was a little wet yesterday, but I was there for Military Appreciation. It was a great day.
Yeah, and there was a lot of military families there. It's neat that we as a state do that, because I've talked to family after family yesterday who were there. They were so appreciative that, A, Missouri takes time to recognize the people who serve, but B, that the tickets are basically free. I think they're $1 for family members and free to servicemen, and it's just neat that we were able to do that for them. And the weather didn't dampen their spirits. It was pretty thick yesterday. It was unbelievable.
And while we're talking about Military Central Missouri Honor Flight, first of this season, launching out this morning. Our guest this morning, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, also running for governor. He's here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's Mr. Brian Hausworth.
It's good to see you.
That's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Marsh is here.
Here, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert. I want to make this political a little bit. You and Hannah were kind of talking about all these kids together and they're competitors, but in the they're friends and they know each other and they root each other on. But then when it comes to going head to head, it might be, still friendly. Does that translate into a gubernatorial race when you have relations with the other two candidates in the race? Is it the same thing? Be as honest. Mike, be as honest as you can.
Have you bumped your head this morning? First of all, my morning started off bad. I called in, and Hannah says, "Hi, can I have your name?" And I'm like, "It's your wedding."
Sorry.
Now you're asking me for my name? That invitation must have become rogue in the mail.
Stephanie was even standing in here with me, and I said, "Oh, that's the lieutenant governor calling in." And I turned around and still said that. It was just force of habit. I'm sorry.
And it was my fault. I was distracting her.
It's all good. Brant, I think everybody and their brother who has ever been or watched politics or anything wished it could stay where it's a nice, friendly, let's just talk about the issues. But, politics at every level, really, from city council all the way up to national, has turned so dang nasty and personal. It's just, it bothers most people, but it's unfortunately the negative stuff is what moves the needle in favor of the other person. So I hate that it happens. Most people say they're disgusted by it, but at the end of the day, they have all these political consultants around them who say, you got to say this about that person or you're not going to win. So bang, all of a sudden they unleash the fury.
Our guest this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe.
Mike, talk to us. So there's another group of folks there at the state fair who really deserve some props, and a lot of them are from Mid-Missouri. Those are the volunteer firefighters and EMTs, paramedics who staff the state fair fire department every year.
It's the only full operating fire department for 12 days in the United States, and it's a great deal. We were there the other day. The governor actually signed a piece of the budget that rebuilds parts of the firehouse. The roof leaks. It's pretty bad. And we now have a ton of female firefighters who are volunteering to come there, John. And as you know, the quarters, if you've ever been in the back of that place, it would be good from when you were in the military, John, but it's not good in today's standards.
It needs an update.
It's not accommodating for the female firefighters. So they're going to get a little bit of remodel there, and they well deserve it. And they use that firehouse in other parts of the year for training and doing different things. So it's a really cool setup, though, because you go there and you'll meet people from, Hannibal, Cape Girardeau. The other day there were Kansas City were there, Springfield. There's firefighters from all over the state. They each, they'll bring different trucks and ambulances from their different departments, and they take it very seriously, and they do a great job. So that's always good to go see the fire. And they always have good food. Those firefighters know how to eat. So they're cooking their own stuff, and that's good.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, we appreciate you joining us tomorrow at the State Fair, and I know you've been there many times, going to be there several times as well. They're going to have the FFA, basically the Drive to Feed event for the kids tomorrow. 1 in 7 Missouri children is food insecure, according to Director Chin. And Mr. Kehoe, both of us, myself, yourself, we both relied at times on food pantries when we were growing up. We were both poor. I remember it, and I know you've talked about it as well. 800 FFA kids are going to be at the fairgrounds giving up one of their last days of summer vacation. What's your thought on that, your thought on this hunger issue?
Well, you hit a nerve in my mind, Brian, because you're right. Both of us depended on food from others when we were young, and it was tough. But, Claudia was on the Central Missouri Food Bank for 15 years. My wife, Claudia, she did buddy backpacks with other volunteers here for almost 10 years in Jefferson City. She'll be with me again. I think this is our 5th or 6th year going up there. Exposing the kid, a lot of Missourians, Brian and Brandon and John and Hannah, Stephanie, don't really want to know or kind of think about where the hunger problems are in our state. And it's real, and it's good to get these FFA kids in at an early stage to understand that they had a meal that day. They'll probably have lunch or pizza or hot dogs or something in between the 2 packing groups. But there's people who haven't eaten maybe that day or that week yet in Missouri. And so making sure they understand what the need is and getting them involved. They do a great job. It's a super fun process, by the way, to be a part of, because these kids are excited. They're excited to be there. We have new this year from Bernie, Missouri. I'm sure you guys have all been to Bernie, Missouri. Yep. I actually have many times. Yep. Martin Rice will be there donating a lot of the rice. And the Martin family, one of the largest rice producers in the United States down in Stoddard County. So, we're bringing all pieces of agriculture together to make sure that they understand what they're doing makes an impact on Missourians' lives, and there's no better way to demonstrate it than bringing agricultural groups, commodity groups. Missouri Farmers Care, Ashley McCarty will be there. She's a huge bus driver on this project, and they'll pack, I think last year 70,000 meals, and we'll get after it tomorrow.
By the way, if you're looking for Bernie, Missouri, it's right near like Brosley and Harvell.
It's true.
If that helps.
Actually, wow. If you want me to it's just south of Dexter, and it's just west of Peach Orchard, if you want me to get you closer.
Wow. Well, for months we've been hearing about the drought. And then I think Brian was telling us this morning that mid-Missouri, at least in the last couple of weeks, has seen almost 9 inches, I think, of rain, record fall, some record totals. So as you're, at the fair talking to our farmers, I mean, how are they dealing with, the drought / flash flooding?
It's the first conversation you have when you say, how's things on the farm? The drought is the number one thing that comes up. Our particular farm, where we are outside of Rolla, was in the dark brown area, which was severe drought. We got no hay crop. We were able to harvest zero hay crop, most of my farm and friends around me in that area. So it was really, really bad. But you're right. The July and now August rains, well, for us, the last 15 days of July brought more rain than January 1st through July 15th. I got more rain from July 15th to August 1st than I did the first 6.5 months. It has brought back our late summer pastures, and what cattle producers are specifically interested in is it'll get the grass good enough for winter pasture, which is a big deal going into winter. Down in the boot heel and the crop areas where there's less livestock and more crop, they're good on rain now. They're saying, let's stop. I mean, there's no way to turn it off, but the moisture has caught back up. So we're very low on hay. A lot of people sold cattle this year. I think our cattle inventory will be low next spring because so many people sold mama cows. But it's agriculture, Stephanie. It's what farmers do. They deal with diversity. They can't control the weather, and they figure out a way through it. And that's what I love about Missouri agriculture families. They get punched in the face every once in a while with these crazy things, but they just keep working forward, and they figure out a way to make it happen.
And, Lieutenant, could you talk for a minute about, because somebody driving to work here 7:47 in the morning, well, that's farm stuff. There you're talking cattle, and, hey, it doesn't affect me. Can you talk about, just very briefly, how this does affect all of us here in the Show Me State?
Well, sure. As I tell people all the time, I have urban legislators down to our farm and say, you thought that beef you bought just came from the grocery store? It doesn't. It comes from here on the farm. And so anytime there's a commodity issue where the input costs are high, and that's not to get too partisan, I think the Biden economic plan is horrible. I mean, input costs for farmers have been through the roof for the last several years, especially since your buddy Biden got in D.C. So input costs are high, and then all of a sudden we have this drought. So now instead of harvesting hay off your own farm, you're buying hay out of Nebraska or whatever. So all your costs to produce that steer to go to the sale are getting higher. Same with if you're putting crops in, whether it's cotton, rice, corn, beans. All those costs are higher, and that translates into a higher market cost. So you want to be able to try to control the variables the best you can. So that you can provide a product at a good value for Missourians. And everything that agriculture does, whether it's food or clothes, affects everybody who's walking through life today. They might not always know it, but it does affect them.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Thank you so much, Steph. We'll see you Thursday at the fair.
We'll be there. Good to talk to you guys.
All right, we'll see you. And by the way, Lieutenant Governor is correct about that Inflation Reduction Act. You hear what Joe Biden
higher meat prices and bigger margins at wholesalers. And the University of Michigan's preliminary August survey showed consumer sentiment falling slightly.
You heard him say right there, higher meat prices. What were we just talking about with our Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Mike Kehoe? Dow was up 105 points on Friday. Coming up 8:25 in the morning bell, we're going to be looking at your futures.
It looks like we might be adding something else to Stephanie's list of things that suck.
We do the morning bell 8:25 every morning.
But I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to change my mind.
So we're adding to Stephanie's long list of stuff.
And that would be all, except for this.
All right, now John Marsh is here. That would be all except for this. What do you have for us this morning, John?
Here we go. If anyone wants to get a personalized license plate in the state of Florida, it's best to be creative and avoid vulgar language. Imagine that. And don't try DOO, doo-doo, because it's already been rejected. They do say that Florida drivers have a lot of leeway, though, when it comes to personalized tags. They can be used to describe oneself or a vehicle and can sometimes be humorous to other drivers, but in large part, their words, not ours. It's a crapshoot for those who don't know the rules. Over the last 3 years, Floridians have applied for more than 1,000 personalized license plates. Plates like SXY, GRMA, Sexy Grandma got the green light. Well, Fart Man was left in the dustbin.
Oh, sad.
Offensive or objectionable plates often rejected from the state. UID, IoT, you idiot, didn't make the cut. Well, the more revealing, I got a P, and Mo Sticky did make the cut.
Mo Sticky or No Sticky?
Mo Sticky. Let's see. O Farts and Mr. Poop got blocked, but SATN, LVS, Satan Lives, the only personalized Florida tag since 2020 to be approved on initial review. And now, if you care to, that's the rest of that story.
I think Brittany at Sam's Club, she texted a pic, 874-9390. You can always reach out and text us at 874-9390. Send a picture of some license plates. Looks like it's on a truck, and I'm trying to, okay. And here's what the tags say. MP0 M1T. MP0 M1T. And I'm trying to think, what does that mean? Now, I had to look closer because it's not the license plate, actually, that I'm looking at.
What is it?
It's the tag. Tag, which I don't know why this is an incredibly, wildly popular topic. Every time this comes up on Wake Up Mid-Missouri over the years.
Yep.
Expired tags. And this is not a temporary tag. This is the little green sticker that goes on the back of your plate. 2018. Expired.
Man.
5 years.
I graduated high school in 2018.
And I just realized I gave the license plates out, too, over there.
Whoops.
Oh, well.
Well, that's all right.
If you see them.
Right, if you see them. They're out in public anyway.
Well, the folks in Missouri wouldn't fare much better. They put out the list of Missourians who had it rejected, and Fartin, F-A-R-T-N, John, didn't make the cut.
If Brandon could choose any vanity plate, it would say something along the lines of "gotta pee."
That's it. A friend of mine's daughter used to be the person at Revenue who had to go through those, and we used to drive her crazy. How about this one?
I think
and stop calling me over here.
I think this one should have gone through. WTF gas. Like, for the price? Like, what's wrong with that? I guess
me about twice a week.
Right.
The best one I saw was one that said number 4-IZE, and next to it on the bumper, it had an American Optometric Association bumper sticker. 4 eyes.
Very nice. Huh. Would this work? But seriously, DMV, my favorite breed of dog is a Shih Tzu. Seriously,
Nope.
Can I? Nope. I wonder.
to support a yes vote on this, and it funds priorities submitted. Yeah, just say aye. Okay, just aye.
Bipartisan cooperation and a string of
couple of our 80-year-old lawmakers in D.C. You know how many 80-year-old lawmakers? And listen, I don't want to go knocking at age. So, like, if you're over the age of 80 and you're going to get out pen and paper and write a letter instead of texting us at 874-9390, if you're going to write a letter, please. We're not talking about age. We're talking about age and what is duty appropriate when you get to not just the age, but mental acuity.
I guess like 5. There's at least a handful. I don't know. Over 80?
19 of them.
19?
19
Oof.
People.
Oof. Elected.
4 times the age of Hannah, just about. They've lived 4 of Hannah's lifetimes. There's 19 of these folks.
Well, now I feel bad because earlier I said I don't really see myself ever retiring. I think I'm going to work till I die. And apparently these folks are looking at their 401ks and saying, you know what? I think I need a couple more years.
Welcome into the show, man. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's producer Hannah.
Good morning.
Houseworth is running around. There's Mr. John Marsh.
Yes, indeed.
My name is Branden Rathert, 874-9390, 874-9390. You start to look at it that way. The current, we have 100 senators. 4 are 80 or older.
Really?
One recently turned 90. My goodness. And here's the thing, when we talk about, for example, Joe Biden, what he's done, and I don't know if you heard what he did over the weekend, but he was like, yeah, that Inflation Reduction Act, I probably shouldn't have called it that. That's like you go up and you're going to do something bad, like brother and sister, like when Stephanie was growing up and maybe the brother come up and, punch her in the shoulder and then come back and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. That's a BS apology.
Yeah, they knew it was just chock full of all the Green New Deal and climate change stuff, and they knew there wasn't a lot in there to reduce inflation. And now, the Aaron Hedlund, Harvard people are all saying, yeah, nothing, inflation might be coming down a bit, but not because of the Inflation Reduction Act. But they're still going to take credit for it.
Yeah.
Don't hold your breath on that.
Joe saying over the weekend, I wished I wouldn't have called it that. Well, it's too late. You already flipped the lid on people. But here's the thing. I wonder, we talk about Joe Biden and these people like John Fetterman, who's not 80, but wow. And it's almost not, and I've criticized people like Hillary Clinton when she said a basket of MAGA Republicans we're a basket of deplorables because we believed in good conservative values. We believed in freedom of speech. We believed in fiscal responsibility. And Hillary Clinton called us deplorables for that kind of thing. So I don't like to talk about the people that vote for the people that we talk about here on the show. But my goodness, I wonder these people that voted for Biden, because like everything that smart people said, it's coming true. Before Biden was elected, everything they said, this is going to happen, the economy, this, and that, weakness on a worldwide stage. We saw with the Afghan pullout. We know that that's why Ukraine was invaded by Russia, was because these are no surprises. We said this. Fetterman, people are like, hey, maybe Fetterman's a good dude and he's got his progressive ideas. But the dude's not well, and we've seen what's happened there. And when Feinstein was running for re-election, people, even her supporters, were like, hey, maybe it's time to take a seat. And it's not just because of your age, but it's your age and the inability to handle the job.
Yeah, it's important to get educated, and I think it isn't just age. I mean, there are folks in my life who are in their 80s and 90s, and I would gladly vote for them, and I think they could put a sentence together. And now I can't put a sentence together. I think they could put a sentence together much better than, like, for example, Kamala. And I would vote for an 80-year-old, some of these 80-year-olds in my life before I would ever vote for her. But I think, and in my mind, it kind of, you zoom out to a bigger picture. There are great people in this world, educated people in this world, articulate people in this world, smart people in this world. Why are we getting a pool of not those things into politics? And I think there are probably a whole host of reasons. And if I could answer that question, I probably would be, a millionaire. But I think that in my mind, that how do we recruit better, top quality candidates into not only into our national politics, but into our local and state politics. I think we've gotten lucky here in Missouri with a lot of folks. I love seeing a candidate who was actually in business, who did something with themselves before they got into elected office. I hate seeing folks who, their whole from high school they wanted. That's not been a good track record for Missouri. If the only thing you ever wanted to do was be elected, that seems to not be a good track.
We know some folks locally that I'm just running for office. I don't care what the office is. I'm running, and it's not working out.
Yeah, but I think having a little bit of life experience on you and then going into elected office, and I love hearing from a politician, look, I was running my business or I was employed and I was, doing these things, and it was the weight of the government or the weight of the government regulation on my business that I thought I didn't have a choice. I had to get involved. And we tell people, don't just sit around and troll people on the internet. Take action, get involved. So I love hearing those stories from some of our electeds.
Well, right. And I was going to ask, as we talk about the issue of age, we like to talk about the older end of that spectrum, but what about the younger end of the spectrum? Because I think there's prejudices that both ends kind of have to overcome a little bit.
So would you vote for this dude?
Everybody's joking now. The clock's run out. Time's up. Over. Plow. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad.
Vivek Ramaswamy, the weekend in Iowa. Go on, Hannah, with your point.
We see it a little bit. We've got some really, really young folks in the state house here in Missouri who barely qualified, which, how old? There's two of them.
Maisie Boyd and
Chris.
And you've got another one. And then Kevin Windham, I still think, from over in Hillsdale in the St. Louis County, just outside of St. Louis, I believe he and Maisie, either one of them or both of them, had the record. You have to be 24, and they were barely 24 when they got in. But Stephanie, you bring up a very good point about Dianne Feinstein. She is 90 years old, the longest-serving woman senator ever, and it seems like longer. She's in her sixth term, where she was first elected in '92. But that fall and technically, when you're a senator, it's not the governor and I know progressives on Twitter have really wanted her to step down, but it's really her call. If she doesn't want to step down, she was just reelected in 2022. So I don't know. She's 90, and that's just that's an issue for the Democrats. But basically, it's her job until she wants to go. That's that's the way it is.
Term limits.
I don't see it happening for Congress.
Yeah.
Newt Gingrich tried that in 1994, and it didn't work. Didn't work out.
Marsh, you think it just doesn't work on a national level? Like it doesn't work in philosophy, or there's no appetite to pass something like that? Because in Missouri, we term limits.
Like Brian said, we're talking going back, 30 years, the last time they had a real push at it. Yeah, there's no appetite for it.
Yeah.
874 9390
was a contract with America in 1994.
Well, and I think, having these younger folks in the State House, I think is really important, right? Because I think getting that diverse point of views when you're sitting on committees and when you're working in the caucus and just among our party, having someone there who can say, yes, this is what young people care about. These are the issues that matter for the future of the party, I think matters. I think when we start talking about higher level offices, statewide offices, I think personally, I like to see somebody with a little bit of experience on them.
And now we have more and more Dems that are saying, yeah, Joe Biden needs to step aside. This is a House Democrat. His name is Dean Phillips. He is from Minnesota.
He saved this country.
I don't get that part. Let's ignore that part, that Joe Biden saved this country.
He can cement his legacy. My real call to action right now is not about me. The call to action is to ask the president to pass the torch. There is an extraordinary bench of people ready to go, proximate, who would you like to see in position. this race? I would like to see a moderate governor, hopefully from the heartland, from one of the 4 states that Democrats will need.
So let's see, Gretchen Whitmer. You'd like to see her, or is it Tim Walz, your home state governor, Tony Evers? Help me out here.
You just said a few names I think would be great.
So in other words, I don't have a name, but it's Gavin Newsom.
I think people would have a consensus around that, and I think I called it starting with a clean slate. And I think a lot of folks, if you said, hey, if we could just ignore Joe Biden and Donald Trump and start with a clean slate, I think a ton of people out there would be like, yes, let's get back to talking about issues. And I think, so I can kind of agree there. What did he say? He said, he didn't say clean slate. He said,
extraordinary bench of people ready to go, proximate. Who
passing the torch. That's what he said. Passing the torch. And I think, and cementing your legacy. And I think, a lot of people wished for Donald Trump that he would do the same, because I think the longer this goes on, if he passed the torch right now, I think he goes down as a great president, all these good things. And I think he doesn't feel that same way, but I think ultimately that's how history would remember him, at least from our side of the aisle. But I think the longer he holds on to that torch, that he risks that legacy. And I think a lot of Republicans would wish, I like that phraseology. And if both sides would just pass the torch, I think we could all collectively take a deep breath and just move on.
And I would add one thing, that Branden did a great job, fabulous job of following up last week with Congressman Luetkemeyer. Essentially, the soundbite you just played with Congressman Phillips is basically what Congressman Luetkemeyer told you, except Luetkemeyer added about some health issues.
I went Houseworth on Luetkemeyer, John, because Luetkemeyer said two, I think, really startling things. He said, I do not, and you can, by the way, you can catch this on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri podcast on our websites, but he said, I do not think Joe Biden is going to run for re-election. We said, Mr. Luetkemeyer, which you'll hear Houseworth do all the time. Mr. Luetkemeyer, did you just say?
That's right.
And he said, yes. And then he said something else. I had to ask him again about that, too. He said people from Biden's camp. And I'm not making this up. Again, this is on the podcast.
Yes, it is.
He said, I have people from Biden's camp that are coming and telling me he's not going to run for re-election. The reason being is his health. He is too old. As a matter of fact, a congressional Democrat recently telling NBC News that Joe Biden's age continues to be not only embarrassing, and here's the thing, because, we do. We get on, we joke, and we laugh, and ha, 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 you hear what he said, and dangerous. There's a Democrat saying it is dangerous. Stephanie and I said this prior to January 20th of 2021. This guy being president is going to be dangerous to us on a worldwide stage. Look what happened with the pullout in Afghanistan. And because of Joe's ineptitude there, you have NATO that says the reason Russia invaded Ukraine was because of Joe's weakness on a worldwide stage. Coming up, we are going to be doing Morning Bell business news, little twist. Only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Well, we'll give you a preview of the serious business news, but also this business is up and coming.
Good morning. 8:25, time for the Morning Bell business news with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow futures all slightly down this morning on our Monday morning as the market prepares to open. All right, Hannah sent me this article, and I'm having a hard time believing it. I thought these things were dead, and I clapped when they died, and there are a couple things I'm glad that COVID killed.
Parachute pants.
Blowing on people's food like birthday cakes. I think we should have never done that.
Never done. Nope.
In the beginning. This other thing, I thought, yeah, this should just be a thing of the past, and that is all-you-can-eat buffets. I have never, it's gross anyway.
Brandon's about to throw up already.
Because of the germs and the sharing of the tools and stuff, I think it's gross. The food is typically terrible. It sits there, it gets either cold or crusty. It's just never good. And, but the Today Show is saying, hey, no, this is a big deal. $5.5 billion industry in 2022, even amongst the people who had to close during COVID. It's way back. It's up 9% from 2021. And it wouldn't surprise you, it's inflationary pressures. It's budgeting that a lot of people are going back to buffets. So I'm going to invite you to change my mind. 573-874-9390. What's your favorite buffet? Is there one out there that I need to try that will change my mind that buffets suck? I don't like buffets. I will tell you, okay, so a couple of exceptions. Dorms are the ultimate buffet, and anytime, and I think I remember it fondly because at the time I could eat with abandon, it didn't matter. So just
and we did in college,
right?
didn't we?
So all day cereal, all day those waffle makers. I mean, the number of waffles that I ate, and then all day froyo and chocolate milk. I mean, excellent, right? But not quite an all-you-can-eat buffet. I once had a really good, it was an all-you-can-eat Mexican breakfast buffet, but it was also all-you-can-drink, and it was in Vegas. So, but I've also had very bad experiences and paid, I have not found that a lot of these all-you-can-eat buffets where they tell you they're going to be really good are actually cheap or cheaper. For example,
you're talking about buffets in Vegas, man.
And everyone talked about them in Disney and said, oh, yeah, you have to go do, and they were horribly expensive. And the food was I paid $20 for the buffet. I mean, the best part about this Disney buffet that I went to that everyone said you had to do was definitely the froyo. The rest of it was just awful. So, I've had some good buffets. I really like breakfast buffets, I think, are the exception. And I went to a standard hotel, and a lot of times you can, depending on where you stay, if there's lots of juices and lots of pastries and lots of different things, I think you can do a breakfast buffet well. But other than that, I find it very difficult.
You're going to be real disappointed at my wedding.
Oh, is it a buffet?
Well, every event.
Can we bring our own? Can I just pack my own?
I just went to that women's conference, and it was at Hermanoff in Herman. And the food, and it was all done buffet. Best buffet food I've had in a long time. If you're planning an event, they do it really well.
Last time I had buffet food, when we went to the Zonta event honoring Stephanie Bell.
And that was plated. It wasn't a buffet. You didn't have to go through the line. But yeah, food produced en masse is not exactly great. And I will say about Hermanoff, the food that was really good was it was all good, but the breakfast buffet. So maybe there's something about breakfast buffets.
There's also something so nostalgic about a Chinese buffet, though.
Ooh, no.
Come on.
Not since they started weighing them. So in high school, there was a place. Yeah, in high school, there was a place in Jeff City, and they charged you just per the container. And so we would just load it up. And the day that
take a plea.
Yes, sir.
We don't take plea deals. It's a wise guy question.
Are you going to change
Just a wise guy. We don't take
Trump being asked, we don't take plea deals. That's a wise guy question. I know what you're trying to do, and he calls him out on it over the weekend in Iowa.
This is why I so wish he's going to Milwaukee. And I think even if he doesn't sit on the debate stage, you think he'll like show up and do something like outside or like trolling.
Heckle him from inside.
You know, it'd be cool, Marsh, if he showed up with one of those Lou Brock umbrella hats.
There you go. And a bullhorn.
And a bullhorn.
Or he could do like live Twitter spaces or something at the exact same time. I don't think he's going to let it alone. I don't think he could do that. I don't think it's in his nature.
And by the way, we will have somebody at that debate.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Stephanie Bell will be there, and she'll be reporting.
I'm so excited.
We're excited, too. We will have feet on the ground at that debate coming up. And then last week, RNC announcing there's going to be another debate. I think that one coming up in September. And really, if you start, and I don't want to get stuck here because I want to move on to other things, you get it. But really, you start to think about this presidential election, as we were talking about Joe's age. There's a growing number of Democrats that are, it's okay because they heard somebody else say it. Sometimes being the first person, it can be brave. And the first Democrat to come out and say, yeah, Joe's not the guy. I know I'm a Democrat. I know I'm in the same party. And that's opened almost the floodgates. Other Democrats coming out saying, yeah, it's got to be somebody else. It really does.
It's a hard conversation as folks age. I mean, it's a sensitive topic. And I think, anytime, even among your own family and your own friends, when you're talking, I'm not sure this is going, how we thought it was going to go, and I'm not sure that this person's doing that well. It's hard to be the first person to bring that up.
Yeah, but now other people are following suit. They're saying, yeah, Joe has other Democrats that are saying he is just not the guy. But I still wonder about the possibility, I'm being serious here, that the two front runners, both parties right now, may not even be on the ballot.
Have we been looking at the odds lately? Because I got to think Newsom's odds, like on the bet, because there's those betting odds. I got to think that those are going up.
874-9390, Stuart says it's not about Joe's age. It's just that he's stupid. Okay. And then back to the Stephanie. Stephanie was talking about buffets. Somebody mentions Dragon Kitchen in Jefferson City.
Mm-hmm.
Go through the buffet there. Jim says it's pretty hard to prepare quality food for more than 60 people at a time.
Oh, I wouldn't want to do it.
It's hard for me to do it for more than one person.
I have been a cafeteria lady in a past life, and I am sure.
What?
Yeah, at a summer camp. I wore a hairnet and everything and used like commercial kitchen equipment. Wow. And I feel bad for the people who had to eat the food, but luckily it was little kids.
Yeah, talk to Pops Amick. Ask him how many chow lines he stood in the Marines, and when he wants to go out to eat, he's going to go to the buffet.
Right.
Hold up. You were a lunch lady?
I know. I'm still stuck on this too.
For sure.
I just can't see it.
At the Rickman Center, just outside of Jefferson City, I worked at the summer camp, and I lifeguarded for a couple hours, and then I came in and I helped cook and serve the lunch.
I can't picture Stephanie in a hairnet.
I'm trying, and I have a headache now.
Well, I wear this net on my head.
Ladyland, I didn't know you'd been a lunch lady before. Here, she's going to the debate to rep Wake Up Mid-Missouri at the GOP presidential debate. She was also serving up corn dogs to little kids in a cafeteria.
It prepared me well for my life now because essentially we just dumped frozen stuff into a convection oven. And now as a busy mom, I dump frozen stuff into my air fryer / convection oven. So it served me well.
874.
Life skills.
Life skills. 874-9390. Kamala said something. It's not word salad.
It isn't?
It's not word salad.
Whoa.
That's sad when that's news.
Gold star.
And I agree with what she said. The problem is, you're about to hear, she does not practice what she preaches. This is so circular here. What she has to say, I agree with her, but she's not even practicing, which completely defeats the entire purpose, the entire point she's trying to make.
But the thing about being a role model, people watch what you do to see if it lines up with what you say.
Wow.
That's right. When you're a role model.
Accountability.
Yeah. It's not just that you go, oh, that person's a role model because they're a president or vice president or because they're a football star for the Kansas City Chiefs. They watch what you do. She's hypocritical. We're all about women and equal rights for women, but we're going to let dudes play sports with them. She is full of... She's saying it.
And they just announced that the White House's pay gap for women is more than the open market, that they pay women less in the White House.
And, I've said this before, but it is so disappointing that we finally get a female in the vice president's chair, and it's this female.
John, that's a good point.
That's a real good point.
It's so sad. Like, it is not a good example of what a female in that seat could be.
That's right. And John and I are not allowed to talk about this because if we talk about it, we're misogynistic or we're even racist because we're criticizing a woman, a black woman. No, we're just telling the truth, man.
But I think of the other smart, professional, passionate women, and I heard some folks at the Iowa State Fair, you're looking at like Governor Reynolds and Nikki Haley and Joni Ernst and some of these other women on the national stage that I think would do a fabulous job in higher office. And now, we're stuck with her.
Yeah. But it shows the hypocrisy. She said they pay attention to what you do. That's right, Kamala. They pay attention to your actions, and your actions do not match what you just said. And by the way, I love this. She's being interviewed by Reverend Al Sharpton. That's right, Kamala. He's really...
People watch what you do to see if it lines up with what you say.
Can you translate that for us? Is that bless your heart?
That's Al Sharpton saying, I'm perpetually hungry since losing all this weight.
That's right, Kamala. Man.
That's one of those sarcastic comments loading sounds, and you're just trying to keep it inside and not outside.
That's the same noise I made when my friend said, I just tattooed this lady's name on my body that I'm not married to. I said, It's
kind of creepy when you play it by yourself.
Yeah, Reverend Al Sharpton.
You say.
That's right, Kamala. Tell it like it is. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Glad you're here. One more thing on a national level of politics. U.S. Representative Greg Steube of Florida filed articles of impeachment over the weekend against Biden, and I think it's kind of like even Fox is hardly on this, I guess, because they know it's it's a non-starter at this point. Wildfires in Hawaii. How many different excuses have you seen for what causes fire? It's climate change. It's the C word.
It is.
Numerous scientists are saying, well, okay, but let's be realistic here. Let's talk about some facts. One of the facts are where this fire is taken, they used to do some cattle grazing, I think sheep and goats, and that's really good for the land. It eats the grass, keeps the grass down, keeps native species in check, and they're saying, so number one, we've got that. We haven't been doing that for years. Think back, remember what what Clinton did back in the 90s, Marsh? When it came to forest lands. Yeah,
we just let them go.
Just let them go. And then we saw record massive wildfires because you said, well, we're not going to do that. It's kind of the same thing here. And then you've got the power company there is being sued because somebody said, listen, you knew that it was going to get windy because there was a hurricane out there and you should have shut down the power. And they still don't know exactly what caused the power.
But the bigger issue is that the alarms didn't go off, that people were not alerted. And I get that it all swept up really fast, but they had the ability to set off, actual alarms and phone alarms. And apparently there are a lot of people who didn't get the warning and didn't get it soon enough. I think that's what, as opposed to just saying climate change, which is like, how can we affect that? Even if you agreed that it's climate change, what's actionable right now? And I think Democrats, they don't want to put in the hard work. Let's figure out what the heck went wrong with those alarms. And let's make sure that when, people are in danger, they know about it.
Meanwhile, let's go out and keep saying climate change. It was climate change. And they get all the news outlets. They buy into the
what's not going to save people's lives? Driving an EV. Do you know what might save their life? Getting the notice in time to get out.
There was a story about a dude, California, and he's got a pickup truck, and it's a brand new truck, but it's a brand new electric vehicle model for a very well-known brand. And his issue was apparently because of the type of electric vehicle it is, it has to have like a Type 3 charger. I don't know about electric vehicles, but the story is, sure, when it was sold to me, and I don't know if it's job on a salesman or if it's electric vehicles in general, but saying, yeah, you charge, you look, there's every 45 miles, you should be able to find a place to charge. Well, not for his vehicle. Ended up having to rent a car and all that. And that was a story on Fox. I'm not kidding. Next day, there's a story on USA Today about how a dude saved an entire neighborhood with his electric truck. Kind of like, point, counterpoint.
Brandon, are you still shopping for an EV?
The Hummer.
Or did I just out you?
the new Hummer. No, I am not buying it.
Can I get a little conspiracy theory here for a sec?
Yes.
No one has actually talked about this yet.
Tinfoil hat?
But I had a bad experience last week, and I was on a golf cart, and it was electric, and it had the little map thing on it or whatever, and I went somewhere that it didn't want me to go, and like a Target shopping cart, it just stopped. There was no going forward, no going backward. It was like, you are not supposed to be right here. It's dead.
Well, where were you trying to go?
Don't worry about it.
Oh!
But it was mad that I wasn't on the cart path, and I'm thinking, if we convert to all of these EVs, what if the government just decides, you know what, we don't want you to get out, we don't want you to go to this place, we don't want you to be able to do this, and your car just clicks off like those golf carts, and you're just stuck. Like I know that
AI in the dash locks all the doors, and you're trapped there.
I mean,
Stephanie's trying to go off-roading in an electric golf cart.
I was so close to the tee box. Like, I don't understand. And other people came to my defense and said, yeah, these things kind of do that. And so I don't know. It freaks me out about electric cars, because if a golf cart can have that technology, surely.
So you're saying your golf cart has like an electric dog fence attached to it? Once you get too far, I
still want to know where you were trying to go.
Coming up, we're going to do some leftovers. Woman here in Missouri at a statewide grocery store that we all know loses it inside the store. But who or what she lost it against is kind of the funny part of the story. We'll do leftovers coming up just a few minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, yesterday's meatloaf is today.
didn't get a chance to get to during the show, but want to do this for you before we get into my dad's favorite program here on the radio station, the Gary Nolan Show. Quick text from Joni. Have you heard of the Rivian? We were talking about electric vehicles. There's a story in Fox. Some dude bought an electric pickup truck, but apparently not enough of the right chargers for a trip he was doing. Had to rent a vehicle and all this rigmarole. But Joni says, have you heard of the Rivian SUV? I have seen the Rivian electric truck, not in person. She says, I saw one over the weekend. I guess Amazon owns them. Not bad looking. Not that I want one, even if I could afford it. That's where I am with the Hummer. Man, I love that Hummer. It's too expensive, though. And it's electric.
The Escalade, they just came out with an Escalade. It's also all EV, and it's like $130,000. My question is, like, when did cars start costing the same as houses?
I could picture Brandon in an Escalade.
I think Hannah's being facetious. And why haven't we just embraced hybrids more? Why? What's wrong with hybrids? Doesn't that still accomplish? It cuts down on some emissions. You use less gasoline, and you don't have to.
The plug-in hybrids are pretty hot commodities right now.
Yeah, or even the hybrids that you don't have to plug in, just hybrid, like the Priuses and stuff. I don't understand why those haven't taken off. Leftovers. Woman charged with attacking, and I've seen these before. This was in St. Louis, but a Schnucks grocery store in St. Louis. They have these robots that run through the aisles. I'm not kidding. First time I saw one, I was like, what the is that? Apparently, this woman having a really bad day in Bridgeton. 63-year-old woman took on Tally. That's grocery store robot, and it goes through and it checks, hey, we're running low on this, we need more of that, what have you, this needs to be restocked. But apparently this woman shoved Tally. Police said, well, we saw you on the footage. Police got involved. How do you charge? Is that property damage? Is that assault if it's a robot?
It's not assault, but it'd probably be property damage.
And it makes
so she punched it or pushed
it, knocked it down. The robot, built by San Francisco-based company called Symbi Robotics, rolls through aisles, check inventory, and notify staff if something needs to be restocked. But there's always more to the story, and that's what I wish these. Okay.
I don't think so, because I get super angry in grocery stores. There are two types of people that deserve to be shoved.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, I was like, so what's the rest of the story? What, in the police report, if I were that cop, I'd be like, so what, but why? What was it that got you ticked off? Was it a culmination of things?
Have you ever been really angry in a grocery store?
Dude, 2 weeks ago when I was on those steroids for my shoulder.
Woo! You were a little
ragey?
Yeah.
Crabby that week.
Twice, John.
Testy.
I had to apologize to cashiers at a grocery store twice because...
Next thing we know, you'll be punching a robot. But I would say two types of people. The first person, the person who's tailing you in traffic, but who just won't get off your rear end when you're in the grocery store and you're like, I can't take those people. The other person who can't decide what they want and they just stand and block a whole section of stuff when you know exactly what you want.
Yeah, then you have to kind of stand there and pretend you're looking at the shelf in front of you.
And I'm like, how do you not know? How do you not know, right?
Marsh, you got anything for leftovers?
Yeah, we had a kind of a neat update last week with Cole County Western Commissioner Harry Otto, who brought Steph up to speed on her clock, the 102-year-old Cole County Courthouse clock in Jefferson City. The last check was up and running, and Harry Otto told us, Steph, not so much, right?
Wah, wah. Not good news.
I liked what he said about just setting it to 5 o'clock, and they'll just be the town where it's always 5 o'clock.
Somewhere. That's
Yes.
what he was going to call it.